Hello there, welcome to Wavy Maths Fractions. So what we're going to be looking at today, going to be, well, in these videos, it's 5 videos. We're going to be looking at understanding fractions now. Then in the second video, we're going to look at equivalent fractions in simplest form. Then we're going to do mixed and improper fractions. Then we're going to look at how you add and subtract fractions together. And then we're going to look at putting fractions in order. So I hope I haven't already bored you to death. If not, then keep watching and you'll learn about fractions. So let's get started with the first one, which is understanding fractions. So we have a circle. The best way to think of fractions is that example of a cake. So if we cut a cake up into 2 pieces, we've got a half. And if we cut each piece into half again, then we've got a quarter. If we cut each quarter up into half again, then we've got 1/8. All right. And if we were then to eat 3 pieces of the cake, we would be eating, if I shade it in, 3/8 of the cake. So straight away, that's the definition of what fraction is there. We can say we have a number on the top, which is called the numerator, and the number on the bottom, it's also called the top, by the way, and I'll call it that sometimes. But numerator is the proper word for it, but I don't know, people like to use long words to sound clever or something. So the top is called the numerator, the bottom is called the denominator. So the bottom is normally some kind of total. It's what is it out of, all right? So that middle line, you can think of it as often as one way of thinking of it is it's out of 8. So eating 3 pieces out of 8. Now, it's not just cakes though, could also have money. So we might have, for example, £24, and we might want to share it between 2 of us. I might want to get 3/8 of it, and you might get 5/8 of it. So it could be like a business. If it was a business, if we only made £24, it wouldn't be very good business. So we could make it, let's say we made £240 in our first week of trading, selling t-shirts or something. Now, because you did most of the work, you're going to get 5/8. I'm only going to get 3/8. So we need to calculate what 3/8 of £240 is. Well, it'd be the same thing we do here. So the way we cut the cake up into 8 pieces, we're going to cut the money up into 8 pieces. So we're going to do 240 divided by 8. So divide by the denominator. Now 24 divided by 8 is 3. So 240 divided by 8 is going to be 30. And then I'm going to take, we've split it up. So it's a little bit like if you think of the cake, each piece would be like £30. 30, 30. So the whole cake often can represent everything. It represents the whole. In this case, the whole cake represents £240. So I'm going to get 3 pieces of the cake. So I'm going to get 3 times 30. Which is £90, and then you're going to get the rest. So that's a way of sharing money. So why do we have fractions? That's another point. What's the point in this? I mean, it's quite boring, isn't it? Well, if I said to you, well, if you asked me, if I did a test and you said, oh, how did you get on with the test? And I said, well, I got 7. Is 7 a good score in a test? What do you think? Some of you might be thinking yes, some of you might be thinking no. The reason is because what do you need to know? You need to know what was it out of. Yeah. So if I told you I got 7 out of 10, now you're thinking, oh, actually I'm quite smart. Whereas if it was 7 out of 60, then you're thinking I flopped. Right. So the reason we have fractions is to show a proportion. All right, a portion of the whole. So we quite often, another important word to do with fractions is proportion. All right, which is talking about how much of the whole did you get. So out of 10, how many did I get right? Or in this 3/8 example, out of the 240, how much did I get and how much did you get? So that brings me to another example as well. Another point I want to make, which is, well, I'm going to make it with a different example. So if there are 12 students in the class and 7 of them are girls and the rest are boys, how would we write that as a fraction? The boys as a fraction, we would write it 5 out of the total 12, wouldn't we? Now, if we were going to write it as a ratio, would it be 5 to 12. Is that right? No. So ratio and fraction are two different things, but they're connected, they're related to each other. What we would write, instead of the total, a ratio doesn't have the total. A ratio has both parts. So we would also write the girls there, and it adds up to 12. So that's the difference between a fraction and a ratio. So just to be clear, a ratio has all the parts, whereas a fraction, I've just written ration instead of ratio. I'll change that in a minute. A fraction has the total on the bottom. Okay. So that's the difference between the two. So apart from that, I think that's a bit of an introduction to fractions. Thank you.